first. Hi, Sagar. Welcome to the webinar that we are trying to create uh, with Vidvatta. So thanks for joining us on this chat actually. Happy to have you as part of this conversations.
The pleasure is mine, Rishikesh. Thank you for having me.
Great, great. So this is just a conversation we are starting with different people to understand like how the industry is trying to work, how people are trying to transition from different phases of their career into AI, how new people can learn about AI, what is happening. So all of those questions we are trying to answer. So we are just first going with you. You've been there from being a good friend
Yeah,
of mine from a long time. And I've been chatting with you around the different challenges,
yeah,
problems, and all those things. So great to have you, Sagar. So to
likewise.
get started, can you tell about yourself, your journey, what you currently do? So let's start with that first.
So, right now I'm consulting organizations, specifically the ones who need to either start an AI division or probably they are creating a new AI product. So, I work on something called as a BOT, a bot model. Bot, anyways, is very popular these days, but been working on this for quite some time. So I basically build their entire teams. I build the product. I set up the guidelines, the SOPs, and anything and everything that is needed for the organization to be functional with regards to the new division or making sure the new product that is being developed is ready to go into the market. So we go to the stage of MVP, do the beta testing, the alpha testing, and once the product is live and the team is ready to handle it independently, I transfer the technology and people to the clients. That's what I do currently, and it's really been a fascinating journey. So it's been almost a decade that I've been into data science, working with all kind of different machine learning and deep learning and Gen AI models. And it's been a roller coaster ride in the beginning. Like most people, I've also been there, but I think it was totally
When is
worth
it?
it.
Yeah. So when is it that you started your career in the AI ML path? Like which year did you start?
So I started around 2015, by nearly the end of 2015, and so I was prior to doing data science, I was into pre-sales business of the infrastructure side, so things like virtualization or backup software deduplication technologies. I used to do that, and there was a lot of analytics involved there in terms of what is the amount of space savings we are talking about, what is the type of cost savings that we are looking at, because IT is always considered as a cost center, and they're constantly under pressure to minimize the budgets and try to get the optimum outcome, very limited possible budget. So I've been doing analytics on and off since then, but the core data science started around late 2015, early 2016, and that's when I started working on the very initial problem, which was related to healthcare. And since then, the journey began. So I actually did a full stack data science engineering course, which helped me a lot. Right, this field is so vast that you can literally get lost if you don't have guidance. Lost in terms of where to start, what is the first step that I should take, and things can get overwhelming very quickly. So you need guides, you need mentors, and in this field especially, it is very important that you get the right kind of guidance, because there are people all over the internet, talking about follow ABC and you can learn data science in 30 minutes. All those magic wand that doesn't work in the real life. So you really have to follow a structured path. And when I was studying, I was also into a full-time job. So for me, it was more challenging because I had lost touch with programming by then. Being into pre-sales, I was dealing with numbers. Numbers and mathematics was not a
You
problem.
were
But
there in pre-sales. How many years you were there in the pre-sales?
so pre-sales was close to 6.5 or 7 years.
Okay. So I think you made a big decision in terms of doing a transition from being a pre-sales to completely like data science, which was more maths heavy, programming heavy, and everything. And I think
Yes.
around even 2015, that was a very peak time. Even I would not say peak,
Yeah.
many scared to get into this field because it was again called the sexiest job and lot of different jobs
Exactly.
were there
Yeah. Yeah.
around that time. So you got into that phase, and even I think the hype was also there with the social media and all that we have currently, like LinkedIn and everything, where just every day there's so much going on, and uh, it was not there at that point, but still there were some good discussions which were going on
True.
around a specific area, and it was still difficult to get to it. Right now, you see a
Correct.
lot of gurus who can help you, and a lot of
Yeah.
online
Yeah.
materials and everything is there. But I think around that time, it was still tricky. You have to do a lot of your own effort to get into this field, to learn by yourself, code by yourself,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So how was that phase for you? Like how difficult was it for you to transition from the pre-sales part to the data science? Like what are challenges you faced to do that?
Was challenging, but I also enjoyed the challenge because I wanted to get into it. Since I was already dealing with numbers and doing a lot of analytics, even though not on big amount of data, but helping companies take those important decisions. Whenever finance is involved, cost is involved, it's a very critical decision. So that had already sparked my interest into this subject even further. And when I started, one of the biggest challenges for me, like I mentioned earlier, was to revisit programming. Uh, Now, after such a long gap, restarting it was a bit difficult initially, but I made sure that I spent at least 30 minutes every day religiously. Now, that is something you cannot escape. See, what's being taught in a classroom or whatever you learn from any video tutorial or probably a blog or, even for that matter, a personal one is to one tutorial. Unless you get your hands dirty, you are not going to learn. Unless uh, you try to come up with a solution, you are not going to be there. And that is that is a deal maker or a deal breaker for you. So you will have to invest time in yourself, and it doesn't happen without practice. And practice will also be frustrating. You might not even get things right in the first instance, and it's definitely going to happen. Your solutions might not be right. You will come across a bug, which obviously today we find it very silly and can be solved easily. But when you start, it's completely like a jigsaw puzzle. You don't know whether it makes sense or not. But that is where you have to decide: do you really want to give up, or do you want to pursue this as a challenge and move on? And this is also one thing which I noticed: a lot of people uh, who tried to get into it, especially in the class that where I was. Uh, we had close to 40, 45 participants in that batch. And by the time um, the batch was about to graduate, it was nearly at half its strength. So a lot of people lost interest. There were some who merely came for very limited amount of curriculum and then they left. There were some who came just for the sake of a job. So probably they found it somewhere and they left. But very few of them completed. And even after completion, story doesn't end there. If you complete and you are not in touch with the subject, it's very easy to forget. Right? Think of school mathematics. Think of college mathematics. You know, you don't practice it for a week or you don't talk about it for a week, it's gone.
Absolutely. So even uh, see, even now, so these topics are a bit of a theory, bit of a practical. Like in other programming
Yeah,
topics that you
yeah,
start learning, there's a lot of practical aspect which is there. Like you have to do a lot of
yes,
hands-on in terms of practical. There is a less theory. I would say 20% theory, but 80% you have to do practical, like you're learning Java or you're learning other languages, or even some aspects within that. But with MLAI, it is very different. It's like 50% is theory you have to learn and understand, and 50% is
yes,
practical you have to do. If you can do practical, but if you don't know the theory, again you are stuck. You will be able to achieve things, but you don't know why something is working, how it is working, how do you tweak it. So the balance that comes up is a bit tricky. And so
yeah,
if you don't
absolutely.
practice the both of these parts, then it is very difficult again. But
And
yeah, absolutely right. So you're saying one is practice becomes a very important part. But I
yeah,
think, see, even in current era, people who still do practice
mm,
but are not able to get the job opportunities very well. So, how
yeah,
did you do the transition? Like, for me also, it was very difficult to do the
mm,
transition. I'll tell about myself later on. But for you, like, how did you actually transition to your first company with actual AI ML role? What was your journey in that part?
right. So, see, one of the things that helped me, Rishikesh, was the hackathon part where we were actually able to showcase our skills. The one thing that I realized very early on is data science overall as a field, whether you call it data science, machine learning, deep learning, Gen AI, there are certain elements that are common to all of them. And, the more deeper, the more niche you go, it is ultimately a subset of the overall AI and ML ecosystem. Now, this is a part of your ecosystem and not the complete ecosystem, right? So you have to be able to connect this with other parts of the business very well. uh, so, as a data scientist or an AI engineer, whatever you'd like to call yourself, you need to know the math and stats part. You need to know coding very well. You also need to understand the deployment practices, and you also need to understand the use case well. Because when you are developing an algorithm, or when you're training a machine for, you need to understand your success metrics well. You need to understand your governance policies well. You need to know your users well, because they are the one who are going to use it. If they don't use it, it's of no use developing anything. Something similar to building an Android or an iOS app. You build it, it may look beautiful, but if there are no users, ultimately it has no value. So that's pretty important. Your users should be able to consume it, and you also need to identify the persona of your end users, whether they are technical or they are non-technical. That makes a lot of difference, and on the basis of that, you design a solution, right? And for that solution also to be able to go into production has to go through many levels of checks. So this is one thing which I studied about. I spoke to a lot of people who were in the industry then, and luckily for me, the hackathon group that I was into, we had a couple of very smart software engineers. So they helped me understand a lot of these aspects. And because I was into pre-sales, I always had that techno-commercial aspect in me, so I could balance both the business as well as the technical aspects. So ultimately, you have to connect everything back to business. If that doesn't happen, you go to the boardroom and the management is going to ask, "Okay, you've done something, you've built a model, good, but what is it doing for us?" So business only understands how much did you save or how much did you make. So in short, धंधे के लिए क्या है? That's what it is about, right? Uh, and ultimately, that is pretty much a logical thing to do if you are a business owner, or probably you are a head of a department and you have a budget to maintain. So you have to know each and everything, all of these things. And this is the reason why data scientists are respected a lot and they are also paid a lot. But um, it's very tiring,
Yeah, true.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So one thing you're
So
saying is the hackathon is something that really
yes,
helped you to
yes,
connect all these things together. to move into the career. So one is like to you, hackathon help. And then you're saying, I think one thing that you really mentioned is, I say that people who are actually from the domain and non-tech background, learning the data science for them has a lot of leverage if they learn it in a right way. They don't have to get coding and
Absolutely.
everything very well, but if they can connect the business and the data scientist related aspects very well, they can bring in a lot of different value. Because one of the lagging
100%.
roles that I see is the middleman role
Hmm.
between the leadership and the data scientist, connecting that values through the business.
Correct.
Because data scientist, even if you say that, okay, at the one level, you know how to add a business value, but people who start at the early career, they know the technology well, but may not know the domain well. So
Yeah,
they need someone who can actually help them identify this. But I think for you, that really helped in terms of like the pre-sales role, getting into the business, and
correct.
I think that's good. And as you
I
rightly
think
say,
the
well,
thing here is, Rishikesh, you have to leverage your current situation in the best manner possible. Uh, so, even if you don't like your current job and you're waiting to get your first data science job, you still have to give it your 100% and see how you can apply data science over there. I think that's one of the best ways for anyone if you're in a job currently to get started. But if you're not in a job, there are a lot of different ways to practice. You probably join a study group. There are apps like Meetup, or maybe you have your peers, your college friends, join a study group. Solve actual problems together. There are platforms like Kaggle. There are a lot of data sets available on AWS. Solve those challenges and think about creating it like a complete solution. So this hackathon that I was referring to, uh, it was a natural language processing hackathon that we opted for, and we made sure that we spoke about each and every aspect a bit, and we worked on it. It it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be exceptionally well or production ready. You just need to make sure you're putting everything that you've learned into practice. Test the waters. That's very critical. Right? And after that,
definitely.
I think the confidence of approaching the companies and giving interviews, it rose. That went
Great.
high because I actually worked on something, and now I was
Right.
no longer in the queue of people who said I've studied. Now I say I could actually say I've worked on something.
You're also bringing one very important point that, so I would like to ask you. So one is learning and one is industry experience. Both are again different. Like what you learn, what you apply are not always similar. Like you focus
Yeah,
one on few aspects in the learning, but when you work in the industry, it may not work in a very similar way. There are a lot
true.
of different aspects that you get. So some of the aspects that you rightly mentioned as domain understanding, the operational aspect. So can you put more light into that? Like what were different when you moved from learning to actual industry work?
I think it becomes a letter T. So when you're learning, you're focusing on this horizontal line. You're trying to cover as much width as possible. You want to make sure you get a decent grip on all the different technology stacks that are available, the different tools that are available, learn about different kind of algorithms where they are used. And once you start working, whether it's a job or whether it's your own startup, then there is a specific use case that you'll start on. That's where this vertical line comes into picture, and you go into the depth. So learning is all about making sure you get exposed to all the possible things in the limited time that you have, and obviously the leverage that you have is the time outside of your classes where you can really explore. And if you have a liking for a certain industry, you can definitely look for a lot more use cases independently by yourself too. So that is the first thing which I noticed. Second, it's an unfortunate situation that lot of times I've seen people focus on Jupyter notebooks when they learn data science. That's how I started, and I quickly realized that it's good for prototyping. It's good for learning. It's good to understand, build your intuition. Production grade doesn't work that way. Your Jupyter notebooks will only be limited to your EDA portion, nothing beyond that. Uh, so transitioning from Jupyter Notebook into a proper ID type of environment was my struggle for the first 3 days in the shop. So I was given a Linux system, and my manager came to me and said, "Configure, set up the environment, and get started. This is what you're going to work on." Okay, and he explicitly mentioned, "Your days of Jupyter Notebook are over. I don't want to see that interface except for graphs." I said, "Fine, done."
I was thinking that you will say Jupyter to code was like almost 1 or 2 weeks because that was for me. But you said that it was a 3 days for you, so that is still a good number or good days that you're saying because if someone starts completely new and trying to transition, like who's so learning mostly happens in Jupyter because mostly it is more intuitive, more easy to understand
Yeah,
things, more
absolutely.
deeper, debug. But then when you move to actual productionization, it feels sometimes difficult to connect things that okay, how do I break it? How do I modularize it? How do I break down the code? Why do I do this? So creating the configs, creating the environments, lot of different
Yeah,
aspects which
absolutely.
comes into it. So yeah, that plays a very important role to actually build reusable production grade applications that many people miss in the start. That's one thing. And any other operationalization aspects where you face like different challenges. Like what are the other like one is Jupyter to VS Code, but as the operationalization plays a very important role because creating a model would be a one part, but the major effort that again comes down to is like how do you actually make it usable for the end users. So what were your challenges with respect to that?
Right. Building a model, I feel, is one of the easiest parts. There is nothing much to do when you're building a model, right?
But it is
It's
even more easy.
yeah, yeah. Uh, I will say there is a pre-model training part and a post-model training part. All right. In the pre, before you build the model, you will have to work tirelessly with your data. Your data will be scattered. Your data expected to be dirty. It is guaranteed to be dirty. Your data will never be in the format that you want. So be prepared for that data manipulation. You will have a lot of outliers in your data. Some of them would obviously be genuine. Uh, and then you will even have those missing values, and you will have dirty data as well. So this data cleaning, data manipulation, it will take up roughly about 20 to 25% of your time. And preparing the right set of data, making sure that your training and testing set is proper. Now, it's a very difficult task if you don't understand the domain, because just a random 80-20 split won't work. So imagine you are working for some retail organization, and uh, you're not from that industry. You got a data set, you started working on whatever classification problem you're giving on, but your manager comes and checks that, in your data, you are looking at a data set where 90% of the people are between ages 18 and 20. You missed the rest of the market. Probably you didn't get the data, or even if you got the data, it never occurred to you that this is not the only demographics that we are working with. So that's a practical challenge. uh, Having the right set of data and enough variations with the negative sampling, because sometimes your model can even get biased depending on the kind of training data that you have. So you also need to make sure that your training data is properly balanced, and you have the required negative sampling, or the negative use cases as compared to the positive ones. So this is where, and then after that, analyzing the data, right? The EDA component, I s- I emphasize a lot on it, because that can make or break your project. EDA is one of the most crucial aspects, because EDA is not just about understanding the data or finding mean, median, mode. It can be automated. Can you make sense out of it? Is the most important thing. So if, let's say, if you were to analyze a batting pattern, you get data for all the live matches. One thing is, you can talk about average number of runs scored by a player, or what is the highest run scored. That's one thing, which is fair. But now, when you have to think like a sports analyst, you need to understand that what is the kind of situation in which the player plays really well. So, if you dissect your data and analyze the batting pattern when the person faces a spinner versus when a person faces someone who is a fast pacer, that's when you realize how many consecutive dot balls does this person have when he's facing a spinner or a fast bowler. So these are the nuances that you have to get into. So EDM matters a lot because uh, before even getting into those algorithms, you need to have a complete understanding of your business, and that comes from EDA. So when we say analyze the data, it is actually analyzing your business, nothing else. So that
Very
is all the pre. And in post, it is the actual
Let me
deployment
just
in the
add, like, let me, if you are, it's just about the pre, if I add some more
yeah,
points, like,
yeah,
see, identifying the outliers and everything will again come purely based on the EDAs that you do. And
correct,
also, a lot of your modeling time, randomly, you keep doing modeling unnecessarily. You can save a lot of
absolutely,
efforts by doing a EDA. If
absolutely,
you're able to do
yeah,
EDA, you can come up with a lot of features, understand that, okay, even this kind of features we can create, how the target is getting
correct,
impacted, some unwanted variables will be able to identify, a lot of human mistakes will be able to identify. It
true,
just gives you so much domain understanding also, like when you get deeper into the data. And it's the craziness that in data science, again, I would always say that you need that mental craziness to go deep inside the data and just uh, dissect the data in every possible way
absolutely,
and understand where, what, how in all different angles. And then, like, if you put 80% of effort, 20% model will be very quick efforts uh,
true,
for the people. So I think, yeah, you, as you rightly mentioned, EDA is a very crucial part that helps in the ML angle, and that many people ignore, I would say, and they
yeah,
directly think that auto ML, they'll run multiple loops with respect to models, or even they try to create a grid search with different parameters or use some
yeah,
hyperparameter optimization strategies and get
absolutely.
a model. And but doing this approach helps you a lot in terms of getting a very deeper understanding on a lot of different aspects and not just the ML model part. Yeah, I think
100%.
that was a,
And I think I remember this incident. The initial projects, the set of projects that I was working on, one of them was regarding dynamic pricing. And sometimes in EDA you find those counterintuitive things. Businessmen not always like to hear that, but it's a finding, right? So you present and being excited. I went to the CFO and I said that we shouldn't do dynamic pricing. He said, why? I said, because all the profit is coming just from one project, and the rest of the projects you are either at break even or making a loss. He said that's not possible. So when I showed everything that why am I claiming what I'm claiming? So actually, we went into a lot of depth in terms of the amount of you have this one typical financial system, all those ERP systems where they're going to look at things as a whole, and maybe certain rule based system where you will understand what the profitability of a certain project is. But when you actually dive deep, there are a lot of things that you realize. So we did that, and that was actually the situation. And CFO was also surprised. He said, then we better do something about it. But I still wanted dynamic pricing, so we built it anyway. It was used, and it's still being used,
he is the
hopefully.
CFO.
Yeah. Yeah, so you would
Yeah,
want everything in his toolkit possible.
I think the similar incidents, and this thing no one can teach you. This is all domain, and the excitement that you have around the data that only can bring this kind of
Exactly.
things. It cannot be taught in any textbook, any video. You can't learn this. It's all about, like, every data is different, and you have to go deep with your curiosity. That, okay, this is something interesting. Let me go deep into
Correct.
this, make day nights of effort. That's a crazy nights that we have spent in a lot of different projects. But yeah,
Absolutely.
it turns out. lot of memory with respect to that.
This
Great.
is also one of the challenges, that is
Yes.
post-model training. And
Right.
I'll also share a relevant example which we all are experiencing right now. So, post training the model, the deployment challenges, obviously, in the MLOps is a beast. You have to be very clear. It will take care of automating your pipelines in terms of model versioning, your data set versioning, making sure that the pipelines are built in an automated manner, because you really can't have a disjoint system that you've upgraded your system to the latest version, but somehow you're still pointing to the older model. It wouldn't work, right? Obviously, it won't give the results. Maybe it will work technically, but it wouldn't give you the results. So that MLOps component is very, very critical. And then this curiosity that you spoke about, it dies. Because see, I'll tell you, you look half a decade back, whether it was LinkedIn, YouTube, people used to, flaunt their visualization dashboards and analytics that, this is a data set I've analyzed, these are my findings. Nowadays, people are talking about Gen AI, they've completely forgotten about it. Even in an organization, once the model goes into production and things are working, they're constantly just behind monitoring the model, and that EDA component slowly fades away. Not because they've forgotten how to do EDA. It's because I feel that the level of curiosity, that enthusiasm, it fades away slowly. So the team needs to be constantly reminded that it's a part of your job. The initial excitement is good, but the consistency has to be maintained. If you're
Very
not
true.
consistent, it won't help.
True. And I think we even to we even had built a lot of dashboards to monitor this ML models. And the whole goal was always even to connect the feature engineering that we did with the production. So all about data drift and everything we were trying to
Right.
monitor. All that plays very important role because again things start going wrong with the drift, then you always need that initial learning that you had with the features, EDA, everything that comes into picture that okay, if this is going drift, then what does it really mean? If the model predictions are going wrong, what could be the main reason? So the person who has gone deep into that data, he can make sense of those things much faster. People who are building
Absolutely.
with Gen AI, they'll be able to build the layer level one model faster, but the debugging will always become a bit difficult because in debugging now we have to put a lot of effort that okay, why this came, how this came, how should I make a change? But
Exactly.
people who actually put in the effort, for them, the debugging is like a uh, cake of effort, like piece of cake, but they immediately get to know that to some level. I may not say that immediately, but
100%. I
at least
agree.
to some good level, you can always connect back, or you can immediately go and do a one more round of EDA with the existing data and find out
Yes.
that, okay, this
Yes.
is where the things are going wrong. And that helps actually. And MLOps, I have majorly spent time on MLOps because after some point, being a lead, your major efforts are then setting up the whole processes, pipelines.
Exactly.
Then
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
ML becomes one small part. Like building the
Right.
model becomes one small part, but taking care of automated feature pipelines, automated model buildings, automated drift management, automated deployment, CI/CD. Then MLOps is something. Any specific learnings that you had with respect to MLOps?
Yes, with MLOps. So I mean, when I started, I was everywhere, doing the EDA, building the models, then also doing the MLOps part. I was lucky to be assisted by the data engineering team. So I used to build the data version control, obviously the DVC system that we used. That was our responsibility. We had to make sure that pipeline was set up properly, and also setting up those GitHub actions. That was a part of our job itself. Only few things related to the cloud in terms of the production deployment cluster. We had no authority over there, but uh, we had the dev environment to experiment and explore completely to make sure that things are proper with close to zero intervention, human intervention. And once in a quarter, we used to have this no DevOps day. So the entire DevOps and MLOps team, they will just vanish. And we used to pray. That
That's a good
you
one.
know, if things are in dev, if things go wrong in dev, it's fine, we'll handle. But oh God, not in prod.
No, I think that's a good one. Like, I have not seen that part, but there is always a confusion because both the teams are blind spotted in terms of what is going on here and what is going on here. Like, both
Correct.
are blind spotted, but even it's again a team effort. Everyone is working together, the data engineers,
Yeah.
data scientists, DevOps people, uh, all of them working together to make this model productionized and see that they are all working in a right way. But yeah, I think those are some great insights with respect to that. Now, coming to next thing, Sagar, like now you have pretty much worked in the healthcare domain. Now, with the healthcare domain, when you try to think of the performance, now because performance plays a very important role, what kind of performance things you were measuring in healthcare applications usually?
So, see, your success metric would really depend on the kind of project that you're working on. So, majority of the use case that I was working on, it was identifying the most critical information from a medical chart. So, for me, recall was extremely important. We were okay to live with, 75 to 80% precision, but the recall had to be pretty high. So that was one of the success metric, but that was a success metric for the model. Apart from that, we also had to make sure that the compliance component is also taken care of. That is also part of your success metric, right? Because
Any
where your
examples
data.
on that? Like what kind of compliance you guys used to track or manage?
Healthcare is designed, it is driven totally by the HIPAA compliance. So there is a lot of strictness even during your training phase that PII should not be a part of your training data set. If at all you're working on something, it should either be deleted or should be masked. And you had to make sure that those checks are also in place. So that was one thing. Your data had to be encrypted, not only at rest but also in transit. Obviously, your cloud is going to help you there. Cloud infrastructure is built in a manner, and then once you take care of all these compliance, SOC 2 also becomes pretty much easy for you because there is a lot of overlap in terms of HIPAA compliance and SOC 2 compliance. Your what do you say, the fairness or the bias in the model, that is also a part of your metric. You need to make sure that your model also doesn't give out any kind of harmful responses, especially with the Gen AI thing, because it is trained on a lot of internet data, and God knows what kind of sites it's taken text from. So it's bound to have a lot of these bias towards the internet chatter. So making sure you maintain that neutral tone is also very important. Things like
Do
gender
that.
bias also. Yeah,
Just like now, bias plays a very important role, and it's
yeah.
again a new kind of things which are there. So, any example that you would like to share, like how do you manage or measure the bias?
So it starts with your training data. First is bias starts with identification. So you mask the identification. That's where it starts with, right? And you have to make sure. And during the EDA phase is where you'll discover a lot of this. Uh, Your bias will come from the inherent data and your understanding of the data. Both are critical. Both are very, very critical. Uh, Sometimes bias is there because of uh, actual inherent factors. Like you've got five clients and you are developing a model that is going to be generalized across those five clients. But one of your client is so huge that comprises of 75 or 80% of your training data. So the model will actually be trained on that data. So you have to make sure that you balance out your training data also well. During a testing phase, obviously you can have the distribution like it is in a production environment, but at least while you are preparing that data set, you have to take care of these things.
Okay, great. And again, as you discussed about uh, now coming, I think you see even in BFSI we used to majorly paisa money was
Hmm.
a major thing. See, at the end
Yeah,
everything falls down to in every area. I think no domain
exactly.
goes with that, everything finally gets converted down to
Yeah,
paisa
yeah,
paisa for everyone. Uh, be it human effort, be it a time effort, or be it a
absolutely. We
direct
want to be paid
money
well.
related
Put it
effort.
in that way.
Your money depends on how much money you are able to save in the
Exactly.
organization. So yeah, I think that's a great one. Now coming back to like coming going beyond, what do you think like in the healthcare industry, how is the Gen AI agentic AI is making an impact? Like what kind of use cases do you feel are have a more impact with respect to Gen AI agentic AI as per your recent understanding and lookouts?
Sorry. Uh, so traditional machine learning and deep learning, both they also transform the healthcare industry. Now, all the models that I'm talking about, most of my deployments have either been those traditional machine learning or deep learning models. All right. But the use cases of Gen AI are enormous. So imagine you are a doctor, you've got a patient, she comes and visits you regularly, but you have to scan through the file entirely. Now, something as simple as summarizing that entire medical history and presenting it on a single screen along with the most important markers. And if you could add some predictive analytics to it in terms of the risk that this patient may carry, that she's been suffering from diabetes for a while now, it's probably time to assess for any kind of complications that arise because of diabetes, like could be with the eyes, because because of diabetes you could have cataract, you could have foot ulcer, there could be kidney complications. So mapping them and also providing recommendations. Recommendation again is a part of your ML stack or a DL stack, and so when you combine these things, so this is one of a very beautiful application of Gen AI. It saves a lot of time. Uh, Second thing is documentation time is saved. So I remember there used to be a time when medical transcription was a part of booming KPO business. Now off lately I don't hear a lot about it. Many of them, they don't employ a lot of people. They leverage text to speech, and they are using generative AI for that. Your sequence to sequence models over there. That's been happening a lot.
They use the speech, and from the speech, they're trying to summarize
Yes,
all the
yes,
things. Okay.
yes,
I've not
yes.
seen it in Indian doctors yet. Uh,
And
yeah, that
there is research around this also. In US healthcare in particular, people write reports in a format called as SOAP, that's subjective objective assessment and plan. So the doctor and the patient has that interaction, and that's being transcribed in real time, and at the end of the session the medical note is prepared.
oh,
Documentation is also another aspect. Now, these pharma companies, when they work on clinical trials, so they create these huge protocol documents. They're long word documents, and all the information from that has to go into a system called as EDC. So it's like extracting structured information. So GenAI also has a good use case here. One, because classical deep learning or transformer models, they have limited context length. So, Gen AI, these big LLMs, they can work pretty well in this case. You scan the entire protocol documents and extract every single aspect. And when I say every single aspect about the clinical trial, it is what kind of trial is it, who is the sponsor, what is the version of the trial, what are the schedules, what is going to happen in each and every schedule, when is the first screening, what's going to happen on day zero, what's going to happen on final day. This everything is just captured from that Word document and into the system. So, traditionally, this is more like 2, 3 days job. Now it's done in 15 minutes. So, and even bots for mental health, that is transforming the industry heavily. Of lately,
use
there are
case,
a
right?
lot of people,
Okay.
yes, yes, there are a lot of people who actually suffer from, mental health. Some of them accept it, but they don't act. Some of them accept and don't discuss because they have that fear that people will judge me, and they even try and avoid going to doctors. So these mental health bots, They've been very helpful. There are some prototypes, I think, that are being developed. There is a Bangalore-based company. I can't remember the name, but they've done this. So there used to be helplines, those voluntary helplines. So now that's been happening through bot, and I can tell you this is a very good and effective way of doing that. And apart from that, knowledge mining is also fantastic. So I guess use cases are immense. You just need to know what is it that you need for your business, and where the ROI is actually.
True, true. I think anything related to document, speech, I think medical field has a lot of good use cases with respect to Gen AI. I think purely Gen AI, agentic is again something that is still uh, going on, but I think fully autonomous. Do you see any fully autonomous use cases with agentic AI in medical yet?
Uh, there could be now, relying on a complete autonomous AI stack. Uh, it will start with something where the risk is least. So people, medical, when you talk about AI systems in medical, people first look at if something goes wrong, what is the fine that I will pay? Uh, yeah, so the complete automation and autonomous systems will uh, be done on the least risky part first, and things like customer communication and stuff. That's where it will start with. In fact, there are some HMI systems, hospital management information system that you have. There are some that are integrated with this. So they're doing some autoresponders and sending those scheduled messages along with anything that the doctor had recommended, sending those regular reminders and stuff. So that's where I think
Yeah.
the
I think
first
usually, yeah, I usually say that mostly wherever there's a chat or conversational aspect is there,
yeah,
the people can refine it again.
correct,
There, I
correct,
think agentic AI can still be there, but when we say that, okay, fully you say it and then this, it takes care completely because the systems are still like 99% or 95% accurate. There's still 1 or 2% that even if you give it the
absolutely
exact prompt, they can still go haywire in some situation. I think healthcare being a very regulated industry,
correct.
there again it could be like again in BFSI, similar kind of thing. The
Yeah,
chatbot based
exactly.
applications are going good. I think
And there are even
yeah,
alert-based systems. So, once a doctor recommends some lab tests and the reports are uploaded, your GenAI can look at that, identify the abnormalities, and send an instant alert to the primary physician or the specialist, whoever is treating that patient, and let them know in case if there is an emergency. These alerting systems. Now, here I say agentic is because you require specialized smaller models for a lot of these things.
yeah.
Healthcare is vast. It's vast. So relying just on one huge model may not be the solution. And I feel that that's where we are headed going forward.
See, even as I see right now, there are many examples where people say that there were 10 years that my doctor was not able to diagnose my disease with ChatGPT has diagnosed it in 10 minutes. So these kinds of examples are
Yeah,
also going on in the industry. I think this can help
I know.
doctors a lot in doing early diagnosis to
Exactly.
some level also in the background. So I
Yeah.
think that would be a good
I mean, diagnosis, obviously, I would avoid personally because, it's a
for
medical
doctors, I'm
advice.
saying,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
But
For the
in
doctors, it can help.
assist with all the possible alerts that
Yes,
these are the possible risk factors.
right.
100%.
The doctor can take the decisions on top of it rather than directly
Absolutely.
letting the user.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
think some
yeah,
of the use cases that I was also seeing was, I think as you mentioned, knowledge bases with respect to healthcare. People just keep Googling, what should I do this, do that, and all those things. I think
correct.
uh, outside countries, there are good documentations around diabetes, BP, all those kind of different diseases. There's a very structured documentation from the government. In India, I've not seen that very well documented because it's very scattered in India right now. But I
Yeah,
think at
yeah,
least in foreign countries, I've seen very good documentation, what kind of health checks, what kind of medicines, what kind of food with different diseases being documented. And those can work very well as a knowledge bases as an RAG-based systems
yeah.
for assisting the users. Right? I
True.
think great, great. I think those are some really good points as we are approaching. the time, I think
Mm.
let's go through. So, Sagar, like, how do you provide, like, how can people move into the AI field now? Like, the different people want to get into it, could be data
Yeah,
scientists, analysts, project managers, like everyone thinks of transitioning into this field because this is a hot field, also more leverage. And I also feel that
right.
there's a good job requirements also. It's not like
Yeah,
there are no jobs in the market. It's just the skill set that what we are looking for is not available in the right way. So how do you suggest people to get into this career? What's your view?
yeah. So there are two ways to start. One is you either start with the theoretical aspects and then move to the practical, or you start with the practical aspects first while learning and then try and understand the underlying theory. Important thing is you have to complete both. If you don't understand this entire set, this universe, you'll be lost somewhere. It will someday or the other bring a challenge, or to become an obstacle in your career growth. So when you're learning, make sure you learn both the theory and the practical aspects of it. Keep practicing, and data science is not just isolated in one department. If you want to make a career switch, start working, because today everyone has a laptop in their office. Everyone is interacting with some or the other kind of data. You identify what is it that is taking up most of your time, how much of it can be automated using any of those Gen AI tools. Understand your processes better, run analytics on it, make this as a personal project. See, there is nothing better that you can explain to any interviewer than how you've applied it for yourself and how it helped you. When it helps you as a professional, it obviously helps the company. And then start doing the same thing for your peers. And then see if the company accepts this as a project, maybe for an individual department, or maybe broader set of people as a whole. So this is one way if you're transitioning from a different field. If you're a fresher, you will have to focus on your networking skills. Okay. Course, certificates, acceptable. Good. That's good to have, but everyone has it. What different do you have? People will also use ChatGPT to try and show on a resume they are different. But how do you actually convince people that you have what it takes for the organization to put their trust in you, and you know that you'd be able to handle a responsible project? Your networking has to be there. You need to go out and talk to people. Don't just send connection request on LinkedIn and ask, "Hi, can I get a job?" People will block you, right? You would not even
Showcase yourself in the
yeah,
right
yeah,
way, right? Like
yeah. You'll
that's
close
true.
all the potential doors. So you have to start networking. Go and meet people. There are a lot of meetups. Try and follow organizations from a specific industry if you're passionate about them, and try and connect with people and see what is the kind of work they are doing. See if there are mutual connects. Start with your friends. Start with your family. Without networking, you will not get in, because I can tell you that the market at this point requires professionals, but good professionals, skilled professionals. And because there are so many applications for a single job, it is very easy for your CV to get lost if you're not known. If someone knows you, you will still have that opportunity to go and talk. How you perform in
Correct.
the interview is totally up to you. But at least don't get into a situation where you're not even passing through that reception.
Frank, like at this point, I would like to highlight that last few roles that I have got are purely based on networking, to be frank.
Networking,
Like I've given very
absolutely.
limited
Yeah,
interviews.
yeah,
And
yeah,
when you are there, you have that trust. People trust you. And now people want to
absolutely.
give you work based on their trust more than the interviews.
Exactly. I
Because
think
it's again
we
very
almost were about to work together because we knew each other, and then we discussed about what we want to do in the future, and realized that okay, I think we better not get into that job.
same thing. Like I've been like I've met with many few people. I've called some people. And most of my career transition that has happened is purely through the trust that I had built over the time. I think initial part of your career,
Matters a lot.
right? Initial part of the career, you should work on at least creating some good trust with the people, because if you break that trust, then again it's difficult. But if you have got some people who really trust you, then it's easy for you to get that reference or even
Absolutely
get with them. So that has a one factor help, but yeah, that is one
correct.
part of it, but may not always help. But yeah, that is also one good
Yeah.
thing that you can always explore. Great, great. Now, any like how one other part is like people keep building the POCs and everything, but how do people start going for a AI first organization? Like you have been working from the startups and all, where you have transitioned from the start, from the scratch to
Hmm.
the AI first organizations, right? Like how do you suggest like many leaderships struggle with that aspect. They see the hype, they start building the POCs and then get stuck. They don't move beyond. They say that AI is just a hype. So
Yeah.
how do you suggest for them to move into this part?
Uh, See, I think a lot of organizations will initiate AI projects just because they want to showcase we are an AI-driven company. One is that marketing aspect. First is you identify a relevant use case, and if you say there is no AI use case, I think there is still some kind of research needed. There is still more thought needed over there because there is a need for AI definitely in every organization. It can help you in somewhere or the other. I can tell you a simple use case. These small organizations, okay, a lot of these manufacturers or distributors, they deal with systems that are either broken or they work a lot on Excels, coming in different formats and stuff. Your Gen AI has so much of potential to go through the Excels and reformat and prepare the final invoicing or whatever the outcome they want. It's tremendous because I remember talking to a couple of my clients and their problems were similar. And I realized they were not the only ones. There are like 10, 20 other people in that group who are facing similar problems. So there are definitely areas where AI will help you. So first is you need to do a proper deep dive as to where AI is required. Second, you need to define your metrics at the beginning. This planning phase is where the leaders need to sit together and understand that, okay, if we are going to implement an AI project, what are we trying to achieve? Are we trying to save or optimize the time, or are we trying to, create a system where we can send more marketing emails or probably more LinkedIn messages, or what are we trying to do? And then how do you measure that it is a success? That success measurement is important, and do you follow up on it? Because obviously it's not going to be a perfect formula in the first instance. You'll have to revise it over a period of time, and then there is a budget that you set for it, that this is what it is and what is the ROI that is expected out of it. So if you don't have this clarity, and you also need to understand the limitations of AI. So you need a clarity in terms of what you want, how will you measure it, and also understand that it is still AI, and it is never going to be perfect. Humans are imperfect as well. So you need to, make peace with, okay, I get 95% accuracy or precision or recall, whatever the metric that you define. I understand there will be some errors, and okay, I will have humans take care of it. But if you're a kind of person who will say, if you ask a question to a rack system, you cannot have even a single wrong answer. It's not going to work. Even Chat GPT says Chat GPT can make mistakes.
Models
Right?
will be
So
making mistakes.
yeah, yeah, absolutely,
Again, the data that we create is just a human made, so there are always
absolutely.
human errors present in that. But again, very true. I think one of the thing I also do suggest usually start with always a rule-based approach. Don't
Absolutely.
even AI something
If you
you
can,
can
yeah,
solve. It's
yeah,
always a good to go with something simpler is always better. Then I think
exactly.
now people can go with Gen AI first after the rule-based. If the
Hmm.
rule-based, if they want
True.
something more better, they can try
Hmm.
Gen Jen, I can give you some very quick, low effort outcomes with respect to building
Correct.
things. Again, but if you think you need some more complex application that even the Jaina is not able to give, I think then going and building something of your uh, some of your own models and then trying to
Correct.
implement and see if you can get more ROI
Yeah.
uh, with respect to building your own models can be there. I think many data scientist teams have now shifted to become a Gen AI, Agentic
Yeah.
AI team because problems which
Right.
are very tricky few years back with respect to NLP, which like even a simple NER based projects like just entity extraction used to take 3 months or 4 months. Create a
Correct.
data, build a model, validate it, test it, 10 times do a testing, and then finally say this project again require more refinement. But the Gen and all is able to just do those things much fantastic way and in a much faster
Absolutely.
way, right? I think then, so I think this layer something people should follow, and as you rightly mentioned, uh, they should following a similar way for getting AI output. ROI is absolutely a very important part for any leadership team. Great, Sagar. I think uh, with that, I think we are almost to the end of it. Any last statements that you would like to give about any of your interesting?
So firstly, thank you once again, for inviting me and having this conversation. So, for everyone who is either live here right now or probably the ones who will watch later on, uh, use Gen AI as your assistant. Don't make it your master. Okay? You'll be very happy. And trust but verify.
Awesome, Sagar. It was a great conversation with you. I think even we did had this kind of a conversation when we usually
Yeah,
talk and discuss. So this has been a very different Sagar that I've been talking to in terms of different topics, different aspects. So it was a fun discussion. Thanks a lot for being here.
pleasure.
I hope this discussion is going to be very useful to people who are exploring AI, who was looking into getting into this field for them. Even if to some people it is able to help, that will be a goal success.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot, Sagar. Have a great
Thank
time.
you, Tejas. And
Thanks a lot,
you too.
everyone who's attending and watching it. Have a great time. Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Yeah. See you.